Good morning, third grade. So, for language arts this week, today and tomorrow, you are going to be working on your end of the week tests. They are in your folder, and they are the vocabulary, comprehension, and grammar tests. So, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the vocabulary. So, look at the top of the page and make sure that it says it's the vocabulary test for the story Sarah Plain and Tall. Remember, you can go back in your book and look for some of these answers if you don't remember them. I'm going to read them and you will make your choice. Now, some of your papers might have had some choices that were crossed out. They were taken out with a dark line, and that's because they are not correct answers. So it was just a way to eliminate some of the answers. So here we go with number 1. We're going to be looking for the underlined word. Years ago, large herds of buffalo roamed the prairie for food. Is the prairie grassland, highland, homeland, or marshland? Buffalo roamed the prairie. Number 2, right underneath there. Fetch. Dad told me to fetch his book from the shelf. Does fetch mean bring his book, clear his book, read his book, or take his book? Now sometimes when you have a dog, and my daughter's cat even will do this, you throw something and they go and they fetch it, and what do? Okay, number 3. What does the word rough mean? The old man's hands were chapped and rough. A, burned. B, coarse. C, shiny. Or D, smooth. Number 4, rustle. On the way home, we heard something rustle in the grass. Did we hear something skip in the grass, sleep in the grass, sneeze in the grass, or swish in the grass? Number 5, buzzing. I've been hearing a lot of buzzing going on outside. The insects were buzzing in the warm night air. Is buzzing the same as breathing, crying, flying, or humming? Bzzz. Number 6, non-fat. We know that when we add non in front of a word, it's the same as saying not. Michelle likes to drink non-fat milk. Is non-fat milk, does that mean it has no fat? With some fat? With a little fat? Or with a lot of fat? Whole milk has all the fat from the cow in it that it normally would have. And then when we take skim milk, what we've done is we've added water to that milk so it doesn't have as much fat. Number 7, nonfiction. Ezra read a nonfiction book about his favorite sports star. I think that would be a biography. So is nonfiction true, funny, not true, not funny? What does nonfiction mean? Number 8, nonsense. What came out of her mouth was nonsense to me. Was it sad words, happy words, words that mean nothing, or words that are full of meaning? Number 9, non-stop. Joy worked non-stop on her homework. Does non-stop mean with noise, with breaks, with no noise, with no breaks? And number 10, non-profit. Now, profit is like the money that you make. So when I read, my mother works for a non-profit company, that would mean very large, successful, money-making, or not money-making. We're going to go on now to the comprehension test. Number 1, what did Caleb and Anna do after they carried wood and water? That was way in the beginning of the story. Did they swept, like sweep the floor? They waited. They fed the sheep, or they shoveled the stalls. If you need to go back and look to see the order, go ahead and do that. Number 2, in what ways did Caleb show he was afraid? He hid and cried. He did chores and didn't talk. He took Anna's hand and asked many questions. He played a game of marbles and climbed on the porch roof. What would show that he was afraid? Number 3, how did Anna and Caleb first know the wagon was coming? They saw a yellow bonnet. The dust rose above the road. The cows and sheep looked up. The dogs came out from under the porch. I had to go back and look at that again. It's at the beginning of the story while they're waiting. It's kind of near the beginning. So I had to go back and look at that to be sure. Number 4, which phrase below best describes the narrator of the story? Who is telling the story? First person Anna, first person Caleb, third person Sarah, or third person not a story character. If it's first person, they use I and me and we and he, and they might tell what other people are doing. Third person is like they're outside of the story and they're telling from all the angles. So think about who was telling the story. And was it first person or third person? Number 5. How did Sarah think the plains were like the sea? The plains were wet like the sea. The plains were rocky like the sea. The plains had land that rolled like waves in the sea. The plains had plants growing on them that were like those found in the sea. Number 6. Which character uses the words I, me, and my to tell the story? Is it Anna, Caleb, Papa, or Sarah? Who is telling this story? And we're going to go on and do number 7 and 8. How does the story's point of view affect how you might understand the events? The point of view is how the person sees things. So the point of view. Does it do A, the reader doesn't know what anyone is thinking? B, the reader knows what everyone is thinking? The reader knows what Anna is thinking? The reader knows what Sarah is thinking? In that story, did we know sometimes what Anna was thinking? Did we ever know what Sarah was thinking, like when she felt lonely? How about Caleb and Papa? Number 8, why do you think it was easier for Caleb to talk to Sarah than it was for Papa or Anna? He liked her more. He was more curious. He was younger and less shy. He and Sarah had more in common. Now we're going to go to our grammar page. And remember, I read to you after the story, Sarah Plain and Tall, about the Conestoga wagons and the prairie schooners. So if you need to, you can go back and look at that. It was after the story was over. There was a little extra story. The Conestoga wagon moved slowest than the prairie schooner, most slowly than the prairie schooner, more slower than the prairie schooner, or more slowly than the prairie schooner. Number 2. Sarah danced gracefully than the other girls. Sarah danced more graceful than the other girls. Sarah danced most gracefully than the other girls. Or Sarah danced more gracefully than the other girls. Number 3. Of the 3 houses, the blue one was built recently, built more recent, built most recently. We're comparing 3. Number 4. He spoke quiet when the baby was sleeping. He spoke more quietly when the baby was sleeping. He spoke more quieter when the baby was sleeping. He spoke most quietest when the baby was sleeping. Number 5. She played happy than the others. She played happier than the others. She played most happily than the others. She played more happily than the others. Number 6. The puppy was sloppy than the kitten. The puppy was sloppier than the kitten. The puppy was most sloppier than the kitten. The puppy was more sloppier than the kitten. Number 7. Jim ran fast than Tom. Jim ran faster than Tom. Jim ran fastest than Tom. Jim ran most fast than Tom. Number 8. Julie finished the test quickly than I did. Julie finished the test most quick than I did. Julie finished the test most quickly than I did. Julie finished the test more quickly than I did. And our last 2. Number 9. This book was written best than the last book I read. We're comparing 2 things. This book was written better than the last book I read. This book was written most best than the last book I read. This book was written more better than the last book I read. Number 10. The sooner I can work on that project is tomorrow. The sooner I can work on that project is tomorrow. The soonest I can work on that project is tomorrow. The most soonest I can work on that project is tomorrow. Go back and listen as many times as you need to. I'll see you later.